every technique. Let's say that you cannot do it with them, but no, it's impossible. You have to be really lucky to do something like that with Damon, because you don't instruct. How can you do it? But forget that. But every technique that has some frame behind, I'm talking about Tweed, I'm talking about Alexander, I'm talking about Ricketts, I'm talking about bidimensional, I'm talking about straight wire. Any technique that has a diagnosis and a treatment plan behind can get here. So you have a diagnosis, you have a treatment plan, and you are an orthodontist that knows what he's doing. And knows his means, his technique, okay? So please, there is no technique that is better of any other technique. There are good orthodontists and there are bad orthodontists. Good orthodontists make a diagnosis, make a treatment plan, know what are the problems, what are the criticities on doing this, and try to avoid them. How do I know that every technique can reach this? Because I have been in the European Board of Orthodontics for 9 years. I was an examiner, then I was the chairman of the examiner, then I was the president. So, and I want you to be here too, okay? So, what I know for sure is that I've seen a lot of cases treated with the Ricketts or with bag or with Tweed or with bidimensional or with straight wire, and they were all finished perfectly. But there was not the technique, was the orthodontist, was the diagnosis, was the treatment plan, was no the experience. So that is called effectiveness, okay? And effectiveness is reaching, you are in point A, you get to point B. You are a good orthodontist, you have studied, you have done your homework, you have done your diagnosis, treatment planning, and at that point, you know what you are doing, you know your means, you know your technique, you can do it. And you can get, like in this case, class 3, class 2, cross-bite, asymmetry, and you can get to class 1. Easy, if you know what you are doing, if you know what are the criticities of this case. So you can get, this is the same case from here to there. But you go from A to B. In order to go from A to B, you have to be a good orthodontist, a good specialist, a good professional. And you know how to use your means, your technique, your stats, whatever you like. Different is efficiency. Efficiency is what we are looking for nowadays. So in other words, is getting the best, giving the less. Okay? So effort and cost is well used for the intent, task, or purpose. So in other words, you are spending less energy possible to get the best. So you are spending exactly the energy that you need to get there. And that is something that is a little bit different. And also, when Dr. Profit was saying that efficiency and effectiveness in orthodontics is achieving the desired results and at the same time not wasting the orthodontist nor the patient time. So we have to put together our time and our patient's time. So, but we still have to go from point A to point B. We still have to have excellence, but we have to try to do it in the easiest way. Now, we're going to discuss a little bit about this, but that is not really the point of my presentation. The point of my presentation is making you thinking. want you to think and use your critical judgment. I want you to think. I want you to spend your time on thinking. Thinking is hard. It's exactly what the orthodontists don't want to do. The orthodontists want to know what type of sequence of wire you use. Every single time I give a course, people tell me, what is your sequence of wire? And I don't know. I don't know what is my sequence of wire, because I think.
Because?
I think. It might be that sometimes I use this sequence, sometimes I don't use that sequence. Sometimes I do something, sometimes I do something else. I have a basic way of doing it, but I adapt what I know to what I see every single time the patient shows up in my office. I see something, I try to give him the best. In order to do that, you have to think. In order to do that, you have to make a treatment plan every single time you see the patient. Well, now let's go back to basic. Because this is the father of modern orthodontics. There's no way, this is the father. You cannot do orthodontics, in my opinion, without knowing and at least having seen what he has done to orthodontics. He is the one that was talking about anchorage, that was talking about the anterior limit of denture. He is the one that was setting modern orthodontics, the biomechanics of orthodontics. He was the one that was talking for the first one on what we want to do with this and what we want to do with the vertical dimension. He was inserting the lower incisors and the vertical dimension in the process. And he was the one that was finishing the case very well. The first one that was able to produce cases treated with the three-dimensional control of the teeth. And that is the reason why you have to do it. And that is the reason why I want you to do all the tweed course. Because I want you to know how to do this stuff. Then, after you have learned this, you can keep doing it. You can change the technique. I don't care. You know how to do it. It's up to you. I don't care. You keep doing it. I'm happy. You want to change? You have the quality of changing without being lost. Because you know how to do it. You know how to control three-dimensional tooth. And you know now, and I don't have to tell you because this is a picture, this picture is from Giovanni Biondi, you'll recognize that. And that in order to control a tooth tridimensionally, you have to have a first order band, a second order band. I don't know how do you call this second order bands. When I was following tweed, the course, they were calling artistic band. And I always told, my instructor, and that was Jim Vaden, I said, if you do it, are artistics. If I'm doing it, I'm not so sure they are artistic, but it's okay. Art is another ballgame. Now, if you want control, you have three-dimensional, you have to control first order, second order, and you have to control with the third order. So, what we can say is that tweed is effective 100%. Efficient? I'm not so sure. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. Because it for sure achieves the desired result, but it needs a lot of time. Do we always need all this time? Maybe, maybe not. It's not I don't want to judge for you. It's your critical sense, your critical judgment that has to decide. When you go to the patient, you decide. This is a paper, a journal, an issue of the journal, of the American Journal that you should keep. If you don't have it, let me know. because September 1972 is the paper that changed orthodontics. And please get these two articles. The first one, a universal direct bonding system for both metal and plastic brackets. So bonding was inserted after this journal, this September 72 issue of the American Journal. This one. Before, the orthodontists were bending every single tooth. Every single tooth. That means the sixth, the fifth, the fourth canine incisors. They had all bent. And that was the reason why. I'm not so sure that was so smart. But that was the reason why, at that time, orthodontics was made only by orthodontists. Because in order to bend a mouth, it was half a day. Because I tell you, putting a band on every tooth is not simple. Moreover, at that time, there was more extraction. It was the top of extractions because a guy by the name of Brennan Swain made a research, and they put together all the thickness of the band, only the mesiodistal. So he found out that was a huge amount of space. If you go from 6 to 6, and you put, the band were in the contact points. So you put there, and it was like that. For sure, at that point, you were almost forced to extract teeth. Otherwise, you put the band and it went forward. Okay? And there was also this paper in the same journal, The 6 Keys of Occlusion by Dr. Larry Andrews. So this is something that maybe, just for historical reason, try to read. And that is the paper that influenced orthodontists probably more than any other paper in the literature. Because out of this paper came out the straight wire technique. And I always like to show you and to show the people how precise and scientific are the selection, the inclusion criteria of this paper. So the inclusion criteria is models selected, so inclusion criteria, were of teeth which had never had orthodontic treatment, which is okay. Were straight and pleasing in appearance. Straight maybe is objective, but pleasing in appearance is not so objective. I can like something, you cannot like something. I can be pleased by some smile, you can be pleased for another one. This is very nice. Had a bite which looked generally correct. So it's an opinion. Seems correct, looked correct. For me it's correct, for you it's not. And the best of the best, in my judgment, would not benefit from orthodontic treatment. So, in the opinion of Larry Andrews, this patient don't need any orthodontic treatment. Maybe in my opinion they will need, maybe in her opinion, maybe yes or no. I'm going to ask you these questions, so make sure that you remember what are the 6 keys of the occlusion. you know, you cannot be an orthodontist if you don't know the 6 keys of the occlusion. It's something that you have to know. Period. One is a moral relationship. And it's very important that you know what we're talking about moral relationship. Because being, you know, having served as an examiner of the Italian and the European board, this is something that is sometimes difficult to understand. When we talk about class 1, we don't want, you know, the definition by angle is that these cusps is in this sulcus, okay? This is the angle definition. We don't want that. I don't care about that. I want to see the second premolar right touching the first molar. The second upper premolar touching the lower first molar. That is class 1 for me. And that is class 1 for everybody. I want to see this here. This tooth should touch the molar. Forget the molar occlusion. We don't want to see the molar occlusion. Unless you want to see this distal part of the first molar touching the second molar in the lower arch. But the best key is this one. I want to see this. If the molar is in the right position, the second premolar is going right here, touching the first premolar in the lower arch. So when we talk about, I want to be clear. When I talk of class 1 means for me, the second premolar touching the first molar. Period. There's no other class 1. Okay? The moral relationship is important. Crown angulation. And crown inclination. Crown inclination is torque. Okay? We want to see torque. Why we want to see torque? For this reason. Because we don't want to have space when we close. In order not to have space, we have to have torque in the upper arch. If you don't have torque, you end up like this. Okay? Easy. Easy to see. Very well explained in the design of Dr. Larry Andrews. If you finish this way and you don't have spaces, you end up in class 2. There's no way that you can end up in class 1. That is the reason why we want torque. And don't forget that torque and inclination is also in the back of the mouth, not only in front. And we have to discuss that, because this is something that is very, very important for us. Because this means that you don't have prematurities. Then rotations. If a tooth is rotated, it's occupying more space. So make sure that not only the molar, also the premolars. Actually, if you think what we call occluding teeth, if they are rotated, they take more space. Non-occluding teeth, if they are rotated, they take less space. Okay? So incisor, you rotate an incisor, you have less space. And then you have to find space to de-rotate the incisors. On the contrary, if you have a rotation on the occluding teeth, when you de-rotate it, you get space. Then spaces and occlusal time. Spaces mean that you don't have to have any space between teeth. That is, of course, if you have a correct Bolton index. If you don't have a Bolton index, you're gonna end up with spaces. Or you reduce the mesiodistal of the arch where the Bolton is bigger, okay? Or you reconstruct where the Bolton is lower. Clear? And then the occlusal plane. The occlusal plane should be straight. Should not be like that, should not be like that, it should be straight. With good exception in this area, as demonstrated by T. Now, if you follow these keys, you can end up or bending the wire in order to fulfill the keys, or on the other hand, you can end up putting all the information in the brackets. And what Larry Andrews did, he put all the information in the brackets. Or I would say he thought he had put all the information in the bracket. That was his idea. Now we'll see if his idea was correct or not. And you might remember this. It's an old paper because it's from '93. So if you saw that, it was the paper was 72. The straight wire developed at the end of the 70s and started very strong during the 80s. And then they realized that something didn't work. Something didn't work. The question is why? Because they realized that something didn't work. Because everybody was changing the prescription. Still now, when somebody wants to invent a new technique, straight wire technique, change the prescription.
Just numbers.
What?
Just numbers. Change them.
Now we want together. I want you to have a critical judgment. Why are they changing the prescription? We're going to answer this question. But Andrew says, let's get an example. Torque in the upper arch. Andrews +7. Roth +12. Alexander's +14. Hilger's +22. 15 degrees difference. And believe me, Hilger's was using 018 brackets and was ending up with the 17 by 25 wire.
And what?
And was finishing with the 17 by 25. But bracket was 018 by 025, and as the wires on 17 by 025. So it was almost filling the zone. Now, my question is, how can it be possible to have such big difference prescription? And you can see all the others. There's a big, huge difference also here. Now, do they want something different? Because no, if I have different prescription, but my idea is to get something different. I give an example. Andrews wants something like that. Roth was something like that. Alexander was. The problem is that all these prescriptions, they want the same thing. They want this. So, all these prescriptions to get this 7 degrees on the occlusal plane. This is crazy. It doesn't make any sense. I want 7 degrees and I put 22 degrees. Andrews wanted 7 degrees and put 7 degrees. Makes sense. Hilger's wants 7 degrees and use 22. there must be a reason why. Now, after that, we had MBT. They came out in 97. You know what is the meaning of MBT?
McLaughlin, Bennett, and Treviso.
McLaughlin is
Bennett.
American, Bennett is English, Treviso was Brazilian, I think. And they came out with a new prescription. It was heavily pushed by 3M, I think.
Yeah.
By 3M. Why they did it? Why do they do it? Why? What? There was a reason to do it. So, broth, as I said, was 12. Let's get central incisor was 12. They went to 17. Besides the fact that it's a good luck, they had a good, they made a lot of money out of it. And they had also high torque with 22. Why? Why? Again, did they want something different? I don't know. They didn't want anything different, but for sure, they made a lot of money. Because this was the prescription that became the #1 in the world. So every single time that somebody was buying brackets with this prescription, these people were making money. Same thing on the lateral. Change just 2 degrees. So why did they change? They changed the prescription because they were trying to overtake the somehow under torque appearance produced by the rod and the annulus. So in other words, under torque means that this. They wanted more this. So there was a group of researchers that say, okay, we have 2 different types of prescription. They did it because they want more torque. Let's see if we can get more torque, if we can see more torque. So they got models finished by these 2 different prescriptions. I gave the models to some evaluator. And you know what is the conclusion? There was no difference. There was no something that was understandable. So, in other words, if you do something in order to get something, this something should be, everybody could see the difference. If there is no way to see the difference, there is no reason to do something different. So there was no difference. And maybe it's because when you talk about the engagement angle, and you finish up with the 18 by 25 in a 22 brackets, you have 18 degrees. So, and this is an 18 brackets. If you go for a 19 by 25, I don't think there's a big difference. Now, and this is going to be a question for sure. So I'm going to put it in the test. I swear to God, I'm going to put it in the test. Now, it's very important what is the engagement angle. No, 0. We are not interested in engagement angle. We are interested in what the tool feels. So we are interested in something that, you know, we call actually, the specialist calls clinically effective torque. Engagement angle has nothing to do with clinically effective torque. Engagement angle is when you touch. And when you touch, you think you are doing any force. If you go and check what is the meaning of the torque, is a force that has two vectors, one in the same direction, opposite vectors. Okay? So it's a force. When you have to measure torque, you have to measure a force. If you have engagement angle, it just touches, there is no force. So in orthodontics, we are interested in not in engagement angles. And everybody tells you that is important engagement angles. And they say, I know you have to multiply each tenth of an inch by 3 and you know exactly the engagement angle. So what? So who cares? So I am not really interested in engagement angle. I am interested on effective torque, clinically effective torque. And if you use a 19 by 25, which is the wire that the people that use straight wire are usually utilizing, and you use a self-ligating bracket. Why using a self-ligating bracket? Because you take out a variable, which is ligation. I can ligate better than hair. No, with a self-ligating bracket, there is no variable on ligation. You close the clip, period. Okay, with an active self-ligating bracket, the clinically effective torque starts from 15 degrees to 31. So depending on the research, because this is a systematic review. So they are putting together all the research. So if you go and have a self-ligating bracket, active self-ligating bracket, and you end up with a 19 by 25, until 15 degrees of prescription is 0. It's a round wire, because there is no clinical effective torque. So if there is no clinical effective torque, it's like using a round wire. So when somebody is telling me that is increasing the prescription from 12 to 15, I laugh. I really laugh. Because this guy has not studied, has not done his homework. Doesn't know what he's talking about. Even worse, when you talk about passive brackets. So if you go passive brackets, the first clinically effective torque is after 22 degrees. I'm taking this side, not this side. Because if I take this side, we don't even discuss. Let's take this side, the best for this. 15 to 22. What happened, Elio?
No.
So please,
Made a mistake.
please, when you talk with people that are finishing with 19 by 25, and they are talking about prescription of 10, 15, 12 degrees, what the hell are they talking about? It's difficult to understand, you know? I laugh, I don't even talk anymore. How can you talk? These people that, you know, they came out and they changed the three degrees of prescription. And what is happening in the torque side is going to be the same on the tip side. And we're going to show that. So, in other words, we're talking about first order bend, even out. Okay? Fine. What is straight wire doing?
Thicker.
You know, when you go, you know, I want that is clear. You have a wire that is 25, and the bracket that is 28. What, you know, you do, if you have edgewise lot, you do like that. And if you do edgewise, what you do the lateral insert. Easy. Why do I like this? Why really I like to eat? I like this type of situation. Because you do the lateral insert. The next visit you see that the tooth is a little bit too far, and you increase the lateral insert, period. What is the problem? No. If you have straight wire, you don't bend the wire. Because you are not able to do it. No, okay, sorry. Because the philosophy tells you that you have to do everything with the brackets. The problem is that they make this thicker in order to have the lateral insert. But the problem is that you have a 25 wire in a 28 slot. And when you put this in, there is a difference. And or you are very good on timing the wire, which can be. I have not seen that done. The only people that tie the wire correctly is the tweet people that use that plier that is almost impossible not tie correctly the wire.
Compliance.
Yeah, that is it. Is it?
Steiner.
You know the plier that you yeah. Straight wire people, they use elastic modus. They usually use elastic modus. It's very difficult to see they using a ligature. You know what is going to happen? It's very easy. This is going to happen. Very easy. Rotations. When you have a rotation, you have still a 25 wire in a 28 bracket slot. You put the wire in the slot, and that is what can happen. Why? Because there is a difference between the wire and the slot. Unless you are very, very good on tying, you have a problem. What about the tip? Again, you have a 22 in a 19 wire in a 22 slot. Oh, by the way, I am from Liguria. You know what is the meaning of that? For the Russian people, people from Liguria are considered the Scottish of Italy. You know, they don't like to spend money. And I come from that region.
Not to spend wire.
I don't like to spend money, to waste money, let's put it this way. I hate to waste money. I hate to pay for the tip in the wire, in the brackets. I hate to wait to spend money for the prescription if that doesn't come out. And if you have this, a 19 wire in a 22 slot, again, you have this problem. I don't like it. So at this point, I don't understand why I cannot put a band in order to correct the tip. It's easier. So, again, I have a 19 by 25 in a 22 by 28. I put it there, and again, I have something that is not, I don't get what I paid for. See?
But I don't understand why they are not making the slot with the same size of the wire.
Good question.
It's a very good question. And the reason why you are asking that is because you never tried to ligate a 21 by 25 in a 22 to 28. Have you tried? In the mouth of the patient?
No.
Try, and then you'd come back and ask the same question.
Undermine resorption.
No. The problem is
wire.
the problem is pretty simple. When you go and fill the slot, or everything is really precise, or you pop off the brackets, or you pop off the eyes of the patient from the pain. Okay? And I can tell you because I put that type of wire in the mouth because my father was finishing always in 21 to 25. And he finished 21 to 25 in a 22 to 28, not even filling the slot. 21 to 25 in a 22 to 28. Believe me, not easy. So if you want to put the wire the same size of the bracket, that means that everything should go perfectly in. Not only on one plane, on this plane and on this plane. Not easy.
And you can use smaller slot. To use smaller wire to have less force, less strength of
So I use a small wire, or no, I'm sorry,
everything smaller.
instead of it having
Instead of
wider,
having wider and wider.
you have,
That is, you have to use.
let me answer to this.
It's a problem of size because.
Can we talk about this later
In
on?
my dimensional technique, we use exactly the same.
We talk about this later on. There are too many things involved on this. And I want to talk about that because it's not only question of filling completely the slot, there is physiology involved, there is something else. Let's talk about this. Let me, okay, Dimika.
You are saying that there is a little bit of torque and grip that you lose,
Yeah.
okay, in this prescription, but maybe they put a bigger prescription on the bracket just to.
We're gonna talk about it.
So this
We already talked about it. In order to get what they want, they have to go over 22
Yeah.
degrees.
And for this one.
So if you go,
And this
talking
is why
about
they put
torque.
20 Okay,
if you go at 22 degrees, it's 0. So that means that if you have 12 degrees or 7 degrees, you have to go 22 plus 7 at least, which is almost 30 degrees. I don't see any prescription for 30 degrees. I don't see any. And 30
so
degrees,
you are saying that you lose 22 degrees of torque in brackets?
I'm saying what the paper says, not I'm saying what the research done. Between
And is that
22
true?
to 30 degrees. If you want, I go back. Because this should be very clear in your mind.
No, it's
No,
okay,
no, no,
it's
I mean-
clear, but it looks like
It's
weird.
not me, it's not me.
No, it looks like weird because if you put an arch in brackets with prescription, you actually see a change in torque too. For example, if you put an arch in a second division, class 2,
So, let's go back. We're talking about clinically effective torque. So the torque the tooth feels. In order to have something that is clinically effective, and you have an active bracket, you have to go between 15 to 31 degrees. Anything that is below 15 is 0 degrees. Now, if you have a passive bracket, anything that is below 22 is 0. And then I'm taking the most favorable of study for this, of these 12. There were 12 papers made on this. And I take the most favorable, this one, this side. If I take this side, under 30 degrees is 0. Clinically effective torque. I'm not talking about engagement angle. Engagement angle for me is 0. Doesn't mean anything. It's not clinically useful. It's just nothing. I want to have effective torque. If I pay for a prescription, since I pay, I want it back.
I need to understand why engagement angle is not useful. Because if you put an arch and it has an engagement angle, you produce two forces.
You
And
don't
so
produce, if you have an engagement angle, you don't produce anything, you just touch. In order to produce something, you have to make the teeth, you have to produce a force. that has to be more than threshold, bigger than threshold. Now, it's not me. Now, let's go back to this. There is something else that I want you to tell. There is something else that I like to tell you guys. And that should be clear. Let's say that, okay, we have exactly what we want. So if, let's say that I have 12 degrees of torque, I get 12 degrees of torque. Then where I put the brackets? Where do I put the brackets? I put the brackets right here, right? FACC. Fine. And I know that the base of the brackets is made for a curvature of the tooth that is here on the FACC, right? That is the right place where I want to put the brackets. I do have a problem.
Sono le ore 16.
What?
Okay, right.
Have you got it? So, I'm putting the brackets in a place where there is the great variability of the incisors. So, in other words, I have something made for a tooth that is up in the air, a mean tooth that is up in the air, and I go to my patient, and it's very probable that the round is different. So if we talk about 7 to 12 degrees, it might be that only the difference on the rounding take you 3, 4, 5 degrees of torque prescription. So there is no way that you can rely only on prescriptions. No way. Because we go on. There's not only that. There's also the difference between the ideal arch-wire slot plate, so engagement angle, to what is real. Why? Because the brake brackets are not what is written. When you buy a 22 by 28, it's not really 22 by 28. When you buy a 18 by 25, it's not really an 18 by 25. Why? For 3 reasons, 2 or 3 reasons. You know, when they make braces, they make it with MIM technique. You know what is MIM?
Injection.
Right. And it's not precise at all. The only way to do something precise is milling, not cutting. Because you have that precision. And still that is not really precise. So almost a big company, they make all the MIM. Only small company make with milling, cutting. Some company, medium company, is getting MIM like I want to have a slot of 18 by 25. They make MIM 16 by 20, and then they go there and cut the right cut, only there. So, for me, it's very difficult to accept that somebody is saying, "Oh, you rely only on the brackets because everything is written in the prescription." There's no way that everything can be written in the prescription. Moreover, there's something else. The slot are not rectangular. They are a little bit more open in front than in the back. And the wire are not rectangular. Why? Because it's normal. No, the rectangular wire are made usually